Today I want to talk to you about something that very few people teach us, how to find joy along the way, even when you have not yet reached the goal. Because if we are honest, many of us live waiting to be happy when everything is resolved, when the problem ends, when the dream comes true, when the door finally opens. And while we wait, the present slips through our hands. The Bible shows us that joy is not a reward that appears at the end, but a strength that is learned and lived while we keep moving forward. Even with tiredness, even with doubts, even through processes we do not fully understand. This message is not for people who have already arrived. It is for those who are still walking, striving, believing, even though they cannot yet see the result. Maybe today you feel identified because you have tried to do things right. You have prayed, you have trusted, you have persevered, and still it feels like you are in the same place, as if the goal were far away or even unclear. Dear listener, if you have ever wondered why God allows you to keep walking without showing you the end yet, this space is for you. Here we will not deny the tiredness and we will not disguise the pain, but together we will discover how joy can be born in the middle of the process, how God works in the journey itself, and how to learn to live with hope even when your heart feels like giving up. If this message connects with you, I invite you to like, comment, and share this video. That helps YouTube recommend it to more people who also need to hear this and who may only have this space to connect with God. By doing so, you would be contributing greatly and becoming a blessing to someone else who may be struggling in silence. You can comment a short phrase, something simple but powerful, for example, joy in the process. Now prepare your heart, because what comes next can change the way you are living your journey. Stay until the end, because the final prayer can be the most special moment, and it is truly worth staying all the way through. First part. Joy does not begin at the destination, it begins with the calling. There is a very common idea that says joy arrives when everything finally falls into place, when you reach what you have been waiting for, when you can finally say, I made it, I finished, I arrived. But when we look honestly at the Bible, we discover that God rarely works that way. He almost never gives his children a life where everything is resolved quickly. Instead, he invites them into a journey, into a process, into a path where the heart is shaped while the feet keep moving. And it is right there that joy begins to grow, not at the end, but from the moment God calls you to walk with him. Think about Abraham. God did not show him the entire land. He did not hand him a detailed map. He simply told him to leave his land and go to the place he would show him. Abraham's joy was not found in having arrived, because for many years he walked without seeing the full promise fulfilled. His joy was found in knowing that God was walking with him. Many times we want joy as an external confirmation, but God wants us to live it as an internal conviction, even when results are not yet visible. This is where many people grow tired. Walking without arriving can be exhausting. It can feel frustrating. It can make you feel as if you are wasting time. But the Bible teaches us something very important. God does not waste long roads. Every step you take, even when it feels repetitive, even when it feels slow, is shaping something inside you that the destination alone could never shape. True joy does not depend on how far you still have to go. It depends on who is walking with you. Maybe today you are in a season where you pray and pray, but the answer does not come the way you expected. You keep believing, but the change is not obvious. You stay faithful, but the tiredness keeps building. And in the middle of all that, a quiet question rises in your heart. How can I have joy if I have not arrived yet? The Bible gives a clear answer. Joy is not created by ignoring pain. It is cultivated by understanding the purpose of the process. When Jesus spoke to his disciples, he never promised them an easy path, but he did promise them his presence. He told them that in the world they would face trouble, but he also told them to trust, because he had overcome the world. That means Christian joy is not born from the absence of problems. It is born from the certainty that God is still in control, even when the road feels heavy. Joy is not pretending it does not hurt. It is remembering that you are not alone while it hurts. Many times we confuse joy with constant excitement, but biblical joy goes much deeper than that. It is a steady peace, an inner stability, a confidence that does not break easily. You can be tired and still have joy. You can be in process and still have joy. You can have not arrived yet and still live with hope. Because joy does not rest on the destination, it rests on the faithfulness of God. There are people who become discouraged because they compare their process with others. They see others moving faster, reaching goals sooner, arriving at places they have not yet reached. But God does not work with human stopwatches. Every process has its rhythm, every calling has its timing, and every path carries different lessons. When you compare your journey to others, joy weakens. When you trust God's personal work in your life, joy grows stronger. The Bible says that the joy of the Lord is our strength. It does not say the destination is our strength. It does not say the result is our strength. It says joy comes from the Lord. That means the more connected you are to Him, even in the middle of the process, the more strength you will have to keep going. The enemy does not always try to make you abandon your faith. Many times he only tries to steal your joy because he knows that a person without joy walks tired, but a person with joy, even when tired, keeps moving forward. Maybe today you need to hear this clearly. God has not forgotten you. God has not lost control of your process. God is not making you waste your time. The road you are walking has meaning, even if you do not fully understand it yet. Learning to find joy along the way is a sign of spiritual maturity. It is trusting even when there is no applause. It is continuing to believe even when there are no visible results. Joy is learned when you choose to be thankful for what God is already doing, not only for what He will do. It is learned when you stop living only for the future and begin to recognize the grace that is present now. It is learned when you understand that God does not work only at the destination, but mainly in the heart during the journey. And the sooner you embrace this truth, the lighter the road becomes. This first truth is essential. Joy does not begin when you arrive. It begins when you decide to walk with God, even without understanding everything, even without seeing everything, even without having everything resolved. From that moment on, the journey is no longer lived the same way. Second part, learning to value what God is doing while you move forward. One of the main reasons many people lose joy along the way is because they are so focused on arriving that they stop seeing what God is already doing right now. We live looking ahead, thinking when I arrive, when this changes, when this is resolved, when God finally does something. And without realizing it, we overlook the quiet, daily work of God that is happening in the process. Joy weakens when you only know how to celebrate endings, but it grows stronger when you learn to recognize God in every stage. The Bible shows us that God works progressively. He rarely transforms everything overnight, because His main interest is not only to change circumstances, but to shape hearts. That is why the process often feels long. Not because God is slow, but because there are things that need to be established inside you before you reach the destination. When you understand this, you begin to look at the journey with different eyes. There is a passage that teaches us to learn to be content in every situation. This does not mean resignation. It means trust. It means learning to recognize that God is still good, even when He has not yet given you everything you are waiting for. Biblical contentment is not born from having everything. It is born from knowing that God is present in everything. When this truth settles in your heart, joy begins to rise in a deeper and more stable way. Many people think that valuing the process means giving up, but that is not true. Valuing the process means recognizing that God is working, even when He is not doing it the way you imagined. It means accepting that there is invisible growth, quiet maturity, faith being strengthened without noise. There are battles that do not show on the outside, but they are shaping your character on the inside. And that is also progress, even if no one applauds it. Jesus Himself walked with His disciples for years, and many times they did not understand what was happening. They saw miracles, heard teachings, and still felt confused, made mistakes, and doubted. Yet Jesus did not reject them for not arriving quickly. He walked with them, formed them, and was patient with them. This shows us something very important. God does not expect instant perfection. He walks with real processes. Maybe today you feel frustrated because your life does not look the way you thought it would by now. You thought you would have overcome certain things already. You thought you would be more stable, stronger, further along. But God does not measure progress only by external results. Many times he celebrates internal victories that you are not even recognizing. Maybe today you pray with more honesty. Maybe you react with more calm than before. Maybe you trust more than you did a year ago. That is also fruit of the journey. The problem is that we live in a culture that only celebrates arrival, visible achievement, final success. But the kingdom of God works differently. God delights in the process, in daily obedience, in the heart that keeps walking even when it feels tired. When you begin to value that, joy stops depending on the future and starts living in the present. Something powerful happens when you learn to be grateful in the middle of the journey. Gratitude opens your eyes to see God in everyday life. You begin to notice things you used to overlook, a word that came at the right time, strength that appeared when you thought you had none left, a peace you cannot fully explain. All of that is God walking with you, holding you up as you move forward. Many times God does not remove the process because the process is the place where He reveals Himself the most. It is where you learn to depend, to trust, to listen, to release control. If God took you straight to the destination without the journey, you might arrive, but you would arrive empty. That is why He prefers to teach you how to live with joy while you walk, so that when you arrive, you do not only have the blessing, but also the maturity to sustain it. Joy grows when you stop saying, "I have not arrived yet," and start saying, "God is still with me." When you stop focusing only on what is missing and begin to recognize how far you have already come. When you understand that every day you keep believing, even without clear answers, is already a spiritual victory. This part of the message is key because it changes the way you live your present. It is not about ignoring your dreams or turning off your hope. It is about learning to walk without losing joy. It is about learning to value the process as part of God's plan, because when you recognize God in the journey stops feeling like a burden and becomes a classroom, and joy stops being something distant and becomes a daily experience. Third part, joy is protected when you stop fighting against God's timing. One of the most silent battles in the journey of faith is not with what we are living, but with how long we have been living it. This is where many people lose joy, not because God has stopped working, but because things are not moving at the pace they expected. Time becomes a constant pressure, an inner voice that says, "You should already be somewhere else. This should have changed by now. Something must be wrong." And if we do not learn how to face that voice, joy slowly begins to fade. The Bible shows us again and again that God does not move according to human urgency. He is never late, but He is also never rushed. His timing has intention, and most of the time that intention is more about who you are becoming than about what you are receiving. When you fight against God's timing, you exhaust your soul. When you learn to trust His timing, joy finds room to stay alive. Many biblical characters had to learn this lesson deeply. Joseph received dreams when he was young, but many years passed before those dreams were fulfilled. Along the way, he was betrayed, forgotten, misunderstood, and imprisoned unjustly. If Joseph had tied his joy to how fast things happened, he would have lived in bitterness. But something was being formed in him, a quiet confidence that God was still writing his story, even when the chapters felt unfair. Joy did not suddenly appear when he reached the palace. It was being strengthened while he learned to trust God in every season. Here is a truth that can be uncomfortable but also freeing. God is not in a hurry because He sees the end from the beginning. We see a day, a week, a year. He sees the whole story. What feels like delay to us is often preparation to God. When you change that perspective, your heart begins to rest. Joy cannot survive when you are constantly fighting the clock. It grows when you choose to walk at God's pace. Many people compare their timing with others, not only their results, but their speed. They see others getting married sooner, succeeding sooner, healing sooner, advancing sooner. Without realizing it, they begin to measure their spiritual value by how fast things happen. But God does not compare processes. He works personally, uniquely, intentionally. Your path is not slower, it is different. Accepting that truth is one of the greatest ways to protect joy. The danger of fighting time is that it steals the present from you. You are physically here, but emotionally always focused on what is missing. When you live that way, Even current blessings feel small or invisible. Joy weakens because you are always waiting for something else. But when you accept God's timing, you begin to live the present more fully, and the present also carries grace. Jesus never rushed his ministry. Even when people wanted to make him king, he withdrew. When Lazarus was sick, Jesus did not run immediately. He waited, and that waiting had a greater purpose. This teaches us something profound. God's love is not measured by the speed of his answers, but by the depth of his plans. When you understand this, you stop interpreting waiting as abandonment. Maybe today you are tired of waiting, tired of long processes, partial answers, slow progress. And God does not ignore that tiredness. He is not asking you to pretend you are strong. He is inviting you to trust. Trusting does not mean stopping your desires. It means stopping the fight. It means releasing the pressure of when and resting in who. When you release the when, joy can breathe again. Some people reach the destination but arrive empty, hardened or resentful because of the journey. Others arrive strengthened, mature, and at peace. The difference was not the destination. It was how they lived the process. Joy is cultivated when you decide that your peace will not depend on the calendar, but on God's presence with you every single day. This part of the journey is decisive. Learning to trust God's timing does not shorten the process, but it makes it lighter. It frees you from constant anxiety, comparison, and self-judgment. And when your heart stops fighting time, joy stops being fragile and starts becoming firm, steady, and deep. Because it no longer depends on how much is left, but on the certainty that God is still working, even now, even here, even in this exact season of your life. Fourth part. Joy grows stronger when you understand that God is working in what you cannot see. One of the hardest truths to accept in the journey of faith is this: God is often doing his deepest work when you see the least evidence of it. We live in a world that measures everything by what is visible, measurable, and obvious. Results, changes, progress that can be shown. And when we do not see visible movement, we quickly assume that nothing is happening. But the Bible reveals a very different reality. God usually works in the unseen before he reveals anything in the visible. This understanding is essential if you want to protect joy in the process, because when joy depends only on what you can see, it becomes unstable. It rises when things look good and disappears when progress seems slow. But when you learn to trust God's invisible work, joy becomes deeper and more consistent. It no longer depends on appearances, but on faith. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. The soil looks the same. The surface shows no sign of life. To someone who does not understand the process, it might look like failure. But beneath the surface, something crucial is happening. Roots are growing, strength is being formed, and without that hidden work, no fruit could ever survive. This is often how God works in our lives. Maybe today you do not see major changes in your situation, but something inside you is being shaped. Maybe your trust is deeper than before. Maybe your reactions are different. Maybe your dependence on God is stronger. These changes are not always visible to others, but they are real progress. And when you recognize that God values this inner work, joy stops depending on recognition and begins to grow from within. Many people in the Bible went through long seasons where nothing seemed to change outwardly. Moses spent years in the desert before being called to lead the people. David was anointed king, but waited a long time before sitting on the throne. During those years, God was shaping humility, patience, and dependence. If David had tied his joy only to his position, he would have lived frustrated. But God was preparing his heart for what was coming. This is where many become discouraged, because invisible work does not bring immediate affirmation. No one applauds inner healing. No one celebrates quiet obedience. No one notices when you choose forgiveness in silence or keep believing when you feel exhausted. But God sees it all, and knowing that God sees your faithfulness changes how you walk. Joy grows when you realize that your obedience matters, even when no one else notices. There are seasons when God does not change the situation right away, because he is changing the way you respond to it, and that internal change is vital, because if God solved everything externally without transforming your heart, joy would remain shallow and temporary. But when God works deeply inside you, joy becomes strong because it is rooted in identity, not circumstances. Jesus spoke about this when he said that the kingdom of God is within you. This tells us that many of God's greatest works begin internally. They begin in how you think, how you trust, how you respond. When you start recognizing this inner transformation, the process stops feeling empty. Maybe today everything around you looks the same, but you are not the same. Before you panicked more, now you pray. Before, fear controlled you. Now you trust more. Before, you gave up easily. Now you keep going. These are clear signs that God is working, even if there is no dramatic external change yet, and recognizing that strengthens joy. The enemy often tries to convince you that nothing is happening, because he knows that if you stop valuing the unseen work, your strength will fade. But when you choose to believe that God is working even in silence, joy is protected, because it no longer depends on visible proof to survive. This part of the journey requires mature faith, not a faith built on constant emotional highs, but a faith that rests in God's character. Understanding that God works in what you cannot see allows you to walk with more peace, less anxiety, and a joy that does not fade easily. Because even when you cannot see it yet, you know that God is still working, and that truth is enough to keep moving forward. Fifth part, joy grows when you choose how to interpret what you are living. There is something that deeply shapes our experience on the journey, and it is not only what we go through, but how we interpret it. Two people can walk through the same situation and experience it in completely different ways. One may grow bitter, frustrated, and discouraged, while the other, even with pain, continues walking with hope. The difference is not the process itself, but the meaning the heart assigns to it. This is where joy is either built or slowly destroyed. Many times we interpret the process as punishment, as delay, as proof that something is wrong with us. We think if I am still here, then God must not be listening, I must have failed, I must not be enough. But that interpretation, although common, is not biblical. Scripture shows us again and again that the process is not a sign of abandonment, but often a sign of formation. When that truth replaces the lie, the weight of the journey becomes lighter. The people of Israel walked through the desert for a long time. That desert could be interpreted as a place of death or as a place of dependence. Some lived it with constant complaining, while others learned to see daily provision. The cloud that guided them, the manna that appeared every morning, the steady care of God. The desert itself did not change. What changed was how it was seen, and that difference shaped their hearts. Here is a powerful truth: God does not always change the circumstance, but He gives you the opportunity to change your perspective. When you choose to interpret the process through faith instead of fear, joy finds space to grow. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you no longer feel lost inside what you are living. Many people lose joy because they interpret waiting as failure, but waiting, when lived with God, is preparation. They interpret silence as rejection, when often it is an invitation to go deeper. They interpret tiredness as a sign to quit, when it may actually be proof that they have already walked farther than they realize. A wrong interpretation drains the soul, but a perspective aligned with truth strengthens it. The Bible teaches us to renew our minds because the way we think directly shapes the way we live. When your thoughts are filled with defeat, the journey becomes heavy. But when your thoughts are filled with truth, promises, and hope, the journey is lived with a different spirit. Joy is not denying reality. Joy is choosing to see reality through the lens of God. Maybe today you are facing something you do not understand, and your first reaction has been to ask why. But there is a more powerful question that can transform your experience. What is God forming in me through this? What is He healing? What is He strengthening? What is He teaching me? When that inner shift happens, the process stops being only a burden and starts becoming a lesson. Jesus Himself, when facing the cross, did not deny the pain. He acknowledged the weight, the anguish, the suffering, but He also understood the purpose. For the joy set before Him, He endured the cross. That joy was not the suffering itself, but the certainty of what God was accomplishing through it. This teaches us that joy does not always come from what we are living, but from what we understand God is doing through it. Interpreting the journey correctly does not mean forcing yourself to feel fine all the time. It means allowing yourself to feel without letting pain define the entire story. It means saying this hurts, but God is still here, and that simple truth, repeated day after day, builds a joy that is more mature and resilient. When you choose to interpret the journey through faith, joy no longer depends on everything changing. It depends on your heart being anchored in truth, and that is freedom. Because you are no longer controlled by circumstances, you are sustained by trust. This part of the journey is essential. Learning to choose how you interpret what you live is learning how to protect your joy. The road may be long, uncertain, and heavy at times, but when your mind and heart stay aligned with God, even the hardest path can become a place where joy grows, deepens, and carries you forward, step by step, until you reach the destination. Sixth part. Joy remains steady when you stop living only for the outcome. One of the most subtle traps in the spiritual journey is living only for the outcome. Everything revolves around when it will happen, when it will change, when you will finally arrive. Without realizing it, the destination becomes the center of your life, and the process turns into something you simply tolerate instead of live. When that happens, the heart grows tired, because it is always waiting for permission to be at peace. The Bible shows us that God does not call us only to arrive somewhere. He calls us to walk with Him. Walking with God is not a transaction that leads to a reward. It is a relationship lived day by day. When faith is reduced to results, joy becomes conditional. You feel strong when things move forward, discouraged when they slow down. You feel hopeful when you see progress, defeated when nothing seems to change. But God invites you into something deeper than that. Many people in Scripture never saw the full fulfillment of everything God promised them, yet they lived with faith, obedience, and peace. Why? Because they understood that knowing God and walking with Him was more valuable than seeing immediate results. When you live only for the outcome, you miss the meaning of the present. And the present is where God meets you every single day. There is something dangerous about making results your source of worth. When progress is visible, you feel valuable. When progress is slow, you feel inadequate. But God does not measure your worth by visible success. He measures it by faithfulness. And when that truth settles in your heart, joy is no longer tied to productivity, but to identity. Jesus never lived obsessed with outcomes. He taught, healed, loved, and served, even knowing that many would not understand, some would walk away, and others would reject Him. If His joy had depended on people's responses, He would have lived in constant frustration. But His joy came from doing the will of the Father, from remaining in His love, from walking in purpose rather than chasing visible success. Maybe today you feel tired because you have done much and seen little. You pray, you try, you remain faithful, but the result does not come the way you expected. That tiredness is not only physical, it is emotional. It comes from living as if peace can only begin after something changes. But God invites you to a different way of living, one where joy is not postponed for later, but experienced now. When you stop living only for the outcome, you begin to value small acts of obedience, one more day of trusting, one more day of believing, one more day of choosing faith, even without clarity. These moments may not look impressive, but they are deeply powerful. This is where strong faith is formed, faith that does not collapse when circumstances shift. The danger of living only for the destination is that when you finally arrive, you may realize the emptiness is still there, because the heart was trained to wait, not to live. God does not want you to spend your life waiting to begin living. He wants you to live now, with what you have, with who you are, with what He is doing in you today. Living the process with joy does not mean giving up on your dreams or settling for less. It means refusing to put your life on hold until everything changes. It means learning to encounter God in the ordinary, in the simple, in the repetitive. Because even there, grace is present. Even there, purpose exists. Even there, life is unfolding. This part of the journey invites you to pause and ask yourself an honest question. Am I only living to arrive, or am I walking with God today? When you choose to walk with him today, joy stops being a future promise and becomes a present reality. And from that place, the process is no longer a heavy burden, but a sacred path where God walks with you, sustains you, and shapes you, step by step, until you reach the destination. Seventh part. Joy multiplies when you choose to walk accompanied instead of alone. One of the most silent and damaging mistakes in the spiritual journey is trying to walk it alone. Not always because there are no people around you, but because you close your heart, carry everything inside, and convince yourself that you must be strong without showing weakness. But the Bible never presents faith as a solitary path. From the beginning, God designed the journey to be lived in relationship, with Him and with others. When connection is lost, joy slowly begins to fade. There are processes that feel heavier not because of what they are, but because of how we live them in isolation. Tiredness grows when it is not shared. Doubt becomes louder when it is never spoken. Pain deepens when it is carried in silence. God knows this, which is why throughout Scripture we see community, companionship, and shared life. Joy is protected when you do not walk alone. Jesus himself, even being the Son of God, chose to walk with others. He called disciples, shared daily life with them, laughed with them, taught them, and allowed them to see his humanity. Even in his most painful moment in Gethsemane, he asked for companionship. That teaches us something very important. Seeking support is not weakness, it is spiritual wisdom. And when you accept that you need companionship, joy finds a place to breathe. Many people isolate themselves because they believe no one will understand their process, or because they feel their struggle is too complicated to explain. But isolation is fertile ground for discouragement. When you walk alone, your thoughts grow heavier, your fears feel bigger, and your strength feels limited. But when you walk with others, the weight is shared, perspective expands, and the heart finds rest. The Bible says that two are better than one, because if one falls, the other helps lift him up. It does not say that if one falls, he must get up alone. God intentionally designed mutual support as part of spiritual life. When you accept this, the journey changes. Joy does not come only from what God does in you, but also from what God does through others for you. Maybe today you struggle to trust people because you have been hurt, disappointed, or judged in the past. That pain is real. But closing your heart also closes a source of joy. Many times God uses human voices to bring comfort, clarity, and encouragement. Not because he cannot do it alone, but because he chose to work through relationships. Walking accompanied does not mean depending on others for your faith. It means allowing others to remind you of truth when you are too tired to remind yourself. It means having someone who listens, prays with you, and encourages you to keep going when your strength is low. This does not weaken your faith, it strengthens it. Even sharing your journey honestly with God is a way of not walking alone. Telling him how you feel, what hurts, what confuses you. God is not offended by your honesty. He prefers an open heart over a silent, distant one. When you learn to speak to God from truth, joy becomes more real, more grounded, more alive. Many people think joy is something purely individual, but the Bible shows that joy is also shared. It is celebrated together, multiplied in community, strengthened through connection. Rejoicing together, crying together, praying together, waiting together. All of this is part of the journey. This part of the path invites you to reflect honestly. Are you walking alone, or are you allowing companionship? Because when you open your heart and choose to walk accompanied, joy no longer depends only on your strength. It multiplies, it endures, and it renews itself through connection. And on a long journey, that makes all the difference.